Train crash in The Fugitive was extremely dangerous and expensive to shoot because they crashed an actual train into an actual bus at full speed. Harrison Ford tore his ACL while filming the scene, and his limp throughout the rest of the movie was real. And the wreckage of the train is still sitting in the woods of North Carolina today. Stephen King famously hated the film version of The Shining, but when he saw Shawshank Redemption, he called it not just one of the best movies done for my work, but a potential movie classic. Danny DeVito not only starred in the movie Matilda, but also directed it. He also took care of the actress who played Matilda while her mother was in the hospital with cancer. He even got an advanced copy of the film for her mother to watch before she succumbed to her illness. A teen boy injected himself with mercury at least 3 times while attempting to convert his bones into metal after watching X-Men Origins Wolverine. He was also intentionally bitten by spiders multiple times so that he could become Spider-Man. This endangered baby dolphin died shortly after this photo was taken because swimmers were passing it around for selfies. A man once threw a mouse into a pile of burning leaves. The mouse then ran into the man's home while still on fire and burned the entire house down. When people are electrocuted and thrown far distances, it is the result of sudden violent muscle contractions, not the shock itself. This has raised questions about the actual strength and subconscious capabilities of the muscles of the human body. A flight attendant named Sheila Frederick noticed a terrified girl who was accompanied by an older man on a flight. Sheila discreetly told the girl to go to the bathroom, where she left a note asking if she was okay. The girl went to the bathroom and wrote, "I need help," on the note. The police were waiting when the plane landed, and the girl was saved from a human trafficker. This is a photo of a police canine being saluted by officers before entering the vet to be put down. This mother horse lost her baby while in labor. 2 days later, she was given a foal who had lost her mother, and this was the photo taken after they were introduced. A 67-year-old named Dorothy Fletcher once had a heart attack while on a flight. When a stewardess asked if there was a doctor on the flight, 15 people stood up. They happened to be on their way to a cardiology conference and the woman was saved. Lieutenant Colonel Jack Churchill held 42 Nazi soldiers hostage while wielding a sword during a 1942 raid in occupied Norway. Nicknamed Mad Jack, he also had the only confirmed kill of a Nazi while using a longbow. During World War II, Dr. Eugene Lazowski saved the lives of over 8,000 Jews in the town of Rozvadov. He managed to fake a typhus epidemic that prevented the Nazis from entering the town. Several indigenous tribes on Pacific Islands thought that cargo dropped for U.S. soldiers during World War II were gifts from the gods. Once American soldiers left, many of these islanders built ceremonial planes and airstrips so that God would drop them more cargo. They're known as cargo cults, and many of them are still active today. Morbid Facts, Part 123. When Ben Franklin's London home was renovated in 1998, 15 human bodies, including 6 children, were discovered in the basement. Archaeologists agree that they were buried at the same time Franklin had been living in the home. While police initially thought it was the work of a serial killer, the bodies were likely stolen by his friend William Hewson so that he could study anatomy. When Joseph Stalin was dying, his private physician was not available. This is because he was already being tortured in the KGB headquarters for suggesting that Stalin get more bed rest. A Thai woman once accidentally slipped on mud, grabbed a naked live wire, and was electrocuted to death. After the funeral, her sister was showing her neighbors how the accident happened. Suddenly, she herself slipped, grabbed the same live wire, and was also electrocuted to death. Here are some disturbing facts that you probably didn't know about the Titanic. The day after the Titanic sank, various newspapers reported that the ship hit an iceberg, but no lives were lost. It wasn't long before they realized what terrible mistakes they had made. Just like in the movie, a group of musicians actually did continue playing as the ship went down. They could have chosen to board a lifeboat, but instead decided to calm the other passengers with their music. The chief baker on the ship, Charles Joffin, survived in the icy waters for 2 hours before he was rescued. He claimed he didn't feel cold because of all the whiskey he drank that night. 16-year-old survivor Catherine Gilnag didn't realize that it was a serious situation until she reached New York. She thought that disembarking in lifeboats and being picked up by another ship was all just part of the journey. Morbid Facts, Part 122. This is a photo of Otto Warmbier begging for mercy while on trial for stealing a propaganda poster in North Korea. He returned to the US with irreversible brain damage and died 6 years later. This is the crevice where Aaron Ralston cut off his own arm to free himself after being trapped by a massive boulder. He did it using nothing but a dull pocket knife, and the movie 127 Hours is based on his triumph. During a 1998 soccer match in the Republic of Congo, a lightning bolt struck one of the goal pitches. It killed all 11 members of the home team, who were all wearing metal spikes. The other team was left completely unscathed, for they had all been wearing rubber cleats. And behind Mount Rushmore is a secret vault that holds important information about the United States and its history. The room is not accessible to the public, but is otherwise left as a record for people thousands of years from now who may wonder how and why Mount Rushmore was carved. Many believe that the vault stores classified documents on suspicious topics such as Area 51. This is a photo from 1955 of a woman being ticketed for wearing a bikini on a public beach in Italy. Dated to 1504, this carved ostrich egg is the oldest known depiction of the New World. The globe shows North America as an unnamed group of scattered islands. There are also depictions of ships, monsters, and 71 named places. It even contains the sentence "Hic sunt dracones," which translates to "Here lies dragons." Dolphins love interacting with pregnant women because they communicate using ultrasound. Not only can they hear the mother's heartbeat, but also the baby's, and they find this very fascinating. For more than 20 years, a dolphin named Pelorus Jack regularly guided ships through treacherous waters until his disappearance in 1912. A man from Argentina posted this photo of a giant mosquito called a galley-nipper that his mother killed in her home. While its bite can be very painful, it's not nearly as dangerous as the smaller mosquito, which can transmit yellow fever and Zika virus. Naka Cave in Thailand closely resembles a giant petrified snake. The average silverback gorilla is 4 to 9 times stronger than the average human male. They can deadlift 1,800 pounds, and their grip can crush the skull of a crocodile. This is a photo of doctors bowing to an 11-year-old boy who died from an aneurysm. They are bowing because by donating his organs, the boy saved the lives of 4 other children. California officer Kevin Briggs has stopped more than 200 people from committing suicide on the Golden Gate Bridge. He is nicknamed the Guardian of the Golden Gate. This is a Vietnam War veteran fulfilling a promise to an old friend, keeping watch one last time. There's a biker group from Arizona who help keep victims of child abuse safe from their abusers while they're being prosecuted. The bikers guard the child's home at night if the abuser's not yet in jail. They also go to court with the child and shield them so that they don't have to look at their abuser. The first known photograph of a person was taken in 1838. It only happened because a man and his shoe shiner were the only people still enough on a busy street to show up in the 10-minute exposure. In 1937, 2 women wore shorts out in public for the first time. They drew a massive amount of male attention and even caused a car accident. The Great Pyramid of Giza was the tallest building in the world for nearly 4,000 years until the Lincoln Cathedral was built in 1311. When trains were first introduced in the US, women were afraid to ride in them. This is because many people believed that women's bodies were not designed to go 50 miles an hour, and that their uteruses would fly out of their bodies if they were accelerated to that speed. Masabumi Hosono was the only Japanese passenger on the Titanic, and he managed to survive the sinking. But after returning to his home country, he was publicly condemned and lost his job for not going down with the other passengers. President JFK's brain has been missing from the National Archives for more than 50 years. Stanley Meyer was one of the first to invent a car that was completely powered by water. He claimed that it was capable of traveling across the country on just 72 liters of tap water, which would have revolutionized the auto industry and made gasoline obsolete. But shortly after creating the car, Stanley died while meeting with investors. His brother said he ran out of the restaurant choking, looked at him and said, "They've poisoned me." In 2008, police in Finland found a dead mosquito inside of a stolen car. So they tested the blood from the mosquito's last meal and used it to successfully identify the thief. In 1979, 16-year-old Brenda Spencer shot and killed the principal and a custodian at her school while injuring 9 others, including a policeman. When asked what her motive was for the shooting, she replied, "I don't like Mondays." This is a photo from 1999 of a divorcing couple splitting their Beanie Babies in front of a judge in court. Serial killer Edmund Kemper became friends with the very police officers that were investigating his murders. They called him Big Ed at the local bar and never would have suspected him in 1,000 years. When he initially confessed, they laughed at him because they thought he was pulling a prank. Pablo Picasso used to carry around a revolver loaded with blanks. And when people asked him about the meaning of his paintings, he would pretend to shoot them in the face. In 2012, 66-year-old Stevie Crecelius went to the hospital thinking he had a kidney stone. During that visit, he would find out that he actually had a strange condition and had been a woman his whole life. Nicolas Cage has already bought his grave, and it's a 9-foot-tall pyramid in Louisiana. In 2005, a suicidal man in California parked his car in front of a commuter train. The train hit his car but derailed and collided with 2 additional trains. The accident resulted in 11 deaths and nearly 200 injuries, but the man survived and was sentenced to life in prison without parole. In 1969, an astrologer warned John Lennon that he would be shot on an island. John was so disturbed by this that it caused him to cancel an upcoming yacht trip around the Greek islands. 11 years later, John Lennon would be shot and killed on the island of Manhattan. The day after Robin Williams died, the National Suicide Prevention Hotline received the highest number of calls in its history. It is estimated that there are still approximately 40 million slaves in the world today. About 70% of them are women, while 25% of them are children. The Bunker brothers were a pair of conjoined twins who made the term Siamese twins popular. They were a famous sideshow act in North Carolina until one day one of the brothers woke up to find that his twin had died. In a panic, he called for a doctor to perform an emergency separation, but it was already too late. He would die just 3 hours after his brother. 9/11, a guide dog named Roselle led a group of people, including her blind owner, down 78 flights of stairs before the North Tower collapsed. She only stopped briefly at one point to give kisses to a woman who was having a panic attack. These 2 human skeletons were discovered in a bin during an excavation in Iran dating back to 800 BC. They died in what appears to be a loving embrace and have remained that way for 2,800 years. Researchers claim that both skeletons were males based on dental evidence. In 1907, a Mexican railroad worker named Jesus Garcia jumped onto a train loaded with dynamite after realizing that the train was on fire. Knowing that an explosion was inevitable, he reversed the train at full steam for 4 miles until he was clear of the town. Moments afterward, the dynamite exploded, killing Jesus but sparing the town. You can literally die from pooping too hard, and it's actually pretty common. Nearly all cases involve people with bad hearts who just pushed a little too hard. One of the most notable people who died this way is Elvis Presley. Up until the 1950s, cigarettes were used to treat people with asthma along with other pulmonary conditions. 30 years ago, you had about 17 minutes to escape a house fire. Today, that's down to about 3 to 4 minutes due to many of the highly flammable synthetic materials used in furniture. After a mass shooting, you would expect complete silence at the scene of the crime. But police say one of the eeriest things is all of the phones that ring when family members are trying to find out if their loved ones are okay. As horrible as the Holocaust was, one man truly stood out as one of the most evil of all Nazis involved. Dr. Joseph Mengele was tasked with conducting genetic research on human subjects at Auschwitz concentration camp. His work focused primarily on twins, with very little regard for the safety or suffering of his patients. Some of his horrific experiments included removing organs without anesthesia, injecting toxic dye into eyeballs, and even sewing twins together at the skin. Most of his patients ended up dying after these operations, but those who didn't often wish they had. What's perhaps most disturbing is that after the Holocaust, Dr. Mengele escaped to South America, where many say he continued his brutal experiments in a less organized manner. He lived for more than 30 years after the end of the war and died on a beach in Brazil. Stepan the brown bear was found weak and alone in the woods when he was just 3 months old. But a Russian couple nursed him back to health, and now 25 years later, he still lives with them in their Moscow home. The couple says the 7-foot-tall bear loves people and has never shown signs of aggression. Temperatures get so cold in the winters in Finland that the frost and snow on the trees can make the landscape look like another planet. Both tanks in this photo are filled with water from the same source, but the tank on the right has oysters in it. A single adult oyster can filter as much as 50 gallons of water per day. Researchers have found that cockroach milk can be 4 times as nutritious as cow's milk. They claim that it's a superfood that can act as a fantastic supplement for protein. Scientists believe that it can help in feeding our growing population in the future. Steve Jobs could have avoided a premature death from cancer by having it properly treated. Instead, he refused surgery for 9 months and favored dietary treatments and other alternatives. Shortly before he died, he claimed that it was one of his biggest life regrets. With a 9% fatality rate, being the president is by far the most dangerous job in America. Hours before his death, Edgar Allan Poe was acting delirious in the streets of Baltimore. He was wearing another man's clothing and was unable to explain how he got there. While many ideas have been put forth, his cause of death remains a mystery to this day. 2012, a Texas father beat his 5-year-old daughter's molester to death. But a grand jury declined to indict the man because they decided that he was justified in using deadly force to protect his daughter. A man who suffered a stroke in 2004 permanently lost the ability to feel sad. A Greek war veteran was once diagnosed with cancer in his mid-60s and was only given 9 months to live. But he went back to those same doctors 25 years later to tell them that he was alive and well. But he soon found out that all of the doctors who diagnosed him were now dead. The man ended up living to the age of 102. The arm of Civil War General Thomas Stonewall Jackson has its own grave. In 1863, his arm had to be amputated after he was accidentally shot by his own Confederate troops. But he was so famous that no one could bear to throw the arm into the pile of discarded limbs. So instead, it was given its own burial. M&Ms were invented in 1941 so that American soldiers could enjoy chocolate that was heat-resistant and easy to transport during World War II. Initially, they were sold exclusively to the US military. During World War II, a Dutch minesweeper evaded the Japanese for 8 days disguised as an island. The crew covered the decks in trees and painted exposed surfaces to look like rocks. They moved only at night and anchored close to the shore during the day, eventually escaping to Australia. In 2016, a Somalian suicide bomber brought explosives onto a commercial flight with the intent of blowing up the plane. 20 minutes after takeoff, the explosives detonated and blasted a hole in the side of the plane. The bomber was instantly sucked out and ended up being the only fatality. In 1832, a man named John Rennie personally designed and carved his own headstone before dying. It's an acrostic puzzle that reads, "Here lies John Rennie, 46,000 different ways." In 1993, a Canadian lawyer named Gary Hoy claimed to a group of students that the windows in his building were unbreakable. To prove this, he threw himself at the window at full force. While the glass didn't break, the frame popped out, and Gary fell 24 stories down to his death. This is a photo of Anne Frank's father Otto revisiting the attic where they hid from the Nazis. Sadly, he was the only surviving member of the family as his 2 daughters died just weeks before their camp was liberated. In 1783, a boy was born with 2 heads, but one of the heads was upside down. Surprisingly, the other head was somewhat functional, and the boy even claimed that he could hear the other brain talking to him. Tigers are some of the most vengeful animals on the planet and will take revenge on anyone who has wronged them. In 1997, a Russian poacher shot a tiger and left him for dead before stealing part of his meal. The tiger later found the poacher's cabin and waited 12 hours for him to arrive before killing and eating him. If you're ever feeling down in life, just remember you're not this guy. This Brazilian prisoner spent 5 years digging an escape tunnel only to realize he was too fat to fit out the other end. His only choice was to give up on his master plan and call for help. When China used to carry out executions with a bullet to the back of the head, the family of the condemned would be sent an invoice for the cost of the bullet. Christine Palilla was an outcast at school until two popular girls gave her a makeover. To say thank you, she shot both of them in the cooter before killing them. Within the walls of Alcatraz, Al Capone's mind completely melted to the point where he would throw his own feces at other inmates. He was paroled early simply because he was too much of a lost cause to be a threat. 1920s, not much was known about the effects of radium. So when a group of women were paid to use glow-in-the-dark radioactive paint, they were told that it was completely harmless. But after years of licking the tips of their paintbrushes while using this radium-based paint, the devastating effects eventually became obvious. Many of these women developed a condition known as radium jaw, which caused horrible tumors around the mouth, and some of their jaws would literally fall off. The ancient Romans would often substitute criminals into plays for punishment. So if a character died in the story, a real criminal would die on stage. The ancient Aztecs built swords out of obsidian, which is said to be 50 times sharper than surgical steel. These swords were apparently sharp enough to decapitate not only a human with one strike, but also a horse. Josephine Myrtle was born in 1868 with a rare genetic anomaly known as diphagus. Her body was completely normal down to the waist, but below it she had 2 pelvises and 4 legs. This is what toilets looked like in many medieval castles. There were a few cases of assassins climbing up these poop chutes and waiting for their targets to sit down before killing them. In 1977, the drummer for Lynyrd Skynyrd survived the plane crash that killed half the band. He then walked to a nearby house for help only to be shot by the homeowner. He apparently saw a bloody long-haired man and fired a warning shot that hit the drummer in the shoulder. Once Pyle shouted that there was a crash, the farmer helped him and he went on to fully recover. This is a comparison of a pug in 1880 versus what the breed looks like today. The pug was selectively bred to feature an extremely flat face, which has contributed to severe breathing difficulties as well as eye problems in many of these dogs. If a person dies on a plane during a flight, their body is typically moved to an empty first-class seat until the plane lands. After the Titanic disaster, the U.S. Congress passed a law requiring passenger vessels to carry more lifeboats. But the added weight made one ship called the SS Eastland too top-heavy. In 1915, the ship capsized before even leaving the dock, killing 844 people. Brian May is an astrophysicist who once collaborated with the team behind New Horizons, the first spacecraft to explore the planet Pluto. May is better known as the lead guitarist for the band Queen. If the Earth and all of its mass were a black hole, it would be the size of a ping pong ball. Only 3 people in the nation were qualified to handpack the parachutes for Apollo 15 in 1971. Their expertise was so vital that they were not allowed to ride in the same car together. A single auto accident could have crippled the entire space program. In 1859, a massive solar flare erupted on the sun. It blasted high-energy particles toward the Earth, creating brilliant auroras as far south as Hawaii. If a solar flare of that size erupted today, it would overload the entire power grid on Earth. In 1856, a woman died just after giving birth to a Greek monk named Mihailo Tolotos. The very next day, the baby was taken to a monastery on top of Mount Athos. He then spent his entire 82-year life completely isolated from women. He's the only known man in history to have lived and died without ever seeing a woman. While this may look like a regular city upon first glance, it's actually the world's largest cemetery. Located in Iraq, the Valley of Peace contains over 5 million bodies. Joseph Matheny was a serial killer from Baltimore who was active from the 1970s till the 1990s. Following his arrest, Joseph not only confessed to killing numerous men and women, he also claimed that he used their meat in the burgers that he sold out of his food truck.